Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the farm. I thought, could there be any better way to start this dreary and chilly morning by going all the way back 40 miles to the west to get our stragglers? It's only the fourth or fifth time we've traveled over here, but gotta bring them home sometime. If not, someone's gonna claim them through adverse possession or something like that. It is chilly this morning. Myself and the 946DR are going to need to warm up a little bit before we head back east. Come on, old gal. Time to perk up for the morning. Katie's taking the 30-foot draper back home as well that we had to leave purely for the sake of convenience. She's also got the perk of using the heavy-duty pickup truck as opposed to our lighter half-ton stuff. Let's just say that the heavier truck pulls those drapers a little bit better. The weather today makes me ecstatic that we got these beans cut. They wouldn't even dry yesterday when it was 75 degrees, sunny and windy. Now it's 45 degrees, overcast and windy. Not ideal bean cutting weather. We may not have been able to cut it all today if we didn't get those out. We did the field a little bit on the wet side. I think our average moisture was maybe 13.5 or 13.6. Road mode. We are as close to ready as we're ever going to be for this trip. Headed back home. How much fuel do you think we used? Zeroed it out. Turn her on. I bet you somewhere between 70 and 80 gallons. It's one of those days where it's nice to stay in the back, tucked out of the elements. Unfortunately, the heater's up front. One thing I will say, that trip is really not that bad. I don't enjoy making it all the time, certainly not with big farm equipment. However, as I've gotten older, longer distances like that just aren't quite as excruciating to drive. Now, dealing with traffic, that's a whole nother headache. But we got home, no problems, beans are out over there. Fertilizer company's been summoned to go over there, spread some lime, put on some potash, some DAP, get ready for the corn crop next year. That's out of our hands, pay to have that done. We're just worried about cutting the rest of our beans. Wow. It's almost like I've done this a time or two. That was exactly what I guessed because I said 70 to 80. 20 gallons of that was probably to clean out that exhaust filter. Feels good to be cutting soybeans closer to home base. Maybe these beans won't give us such a headache in terms of moisture. Katie radioed over and said that her LED light on the end of her loading auger was dangling, so I just took it off. Easier to remove than replace. That is the most expensive and dangerous ladder I've ever seen. I think a little giant would do a better job. There's so many hills and terraces on this farm that it's much less of a liability to stop and dump as opposed to trying unloading on the go. That being said, you really aren't going to save that much money in fuel and depreciation versus what it might cost you if you run into that auger. Don't want to damage my poor grain cart. The overcast weather isn't seeming to add any kind of burden to the combines, processing the beans with ease, especially compared to yesterday evening. With every field of soybeans we finish at this point, we can let out a bigger sigh of relief. Shooting from the hip, I'd say we have 3 or 4 fields left to go. Should get at least 2 of those done today, barring any unforeseen accidents, combine breakdowns, truck problems, a meteor hitting the earth, something, I don't know. Unhooking the heads and moving fields. Easy. Oh, what part easy don't you get? We get to follow the speed demon. You see him coming down the road, get out of his way. There goes Katie. There's the other draper. And Dad and I are gonna sneak back up this lane. Wouldn't take too much of a misstep for our draper to be getting a bath out here in the pond. Got a little bit of room to work with. Okay, not a lot of room to work with because I had to pull into the bean field. But we should be able to hook up. Dad's executing a 20-point turn. That way we don't ding up the head cart. Looks like it should squeeze in here though.
That dried up over there quite a bit.
What were they running? What were they running?
Moisture?
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, the ground dried up, you mean?
Ground dried.
About just buried the truck out there. A little soft in the corner. The entire time that we've been cutting this field, the semi has been going to the elevator and the 10-wheeler has been going to a bin. This should be enough to top off that bin. And that would theoretically be our last bean bin of the year. Oh boy. If there was any chance of me getting a bonus today, it is definitely gone now. Come on, Jeff, momentum is your friend. Go, don't stop. Oh man, it is wet. My mom would be so disappointed in me. She's just taking my boots off before I got in the cab. I was supposed to put these beans on Jeff directly and not on the grain cart, and he drove off. And Katie's loading the grain cart with dryer beans. So that puts us in a predicament because I cannot squeeze through there. A little bit of a drop off there, not to mention that's my grandpa's field. We're not trying to mud his stuff up too. I talked to Jeff. He's going to back the truck up, keep it on the sod, and I'm going to pull up there and load him. Doesn't take an expert to realize that a semi-truck is not going to perform well if it gets loaded on that kind of ground. It might take him a few realignments, but if anyone can make this, it's Jeff. Worst case scenario, we have to drag the grain trailer out of the pond. Told you we'd get it done. Jeff's just an expert truck driver. He did that in maybe 2 readjustments. 3 readjustments. There you go, 3. He fixed that for me. That wasn't too complicated. Now, on the bright side, we don't have to worry about working this field. It's getting worked right now by the 4-wheel drive. This is the content you're all here for, I know. You love to see the combine action. These are a Pioneer 3/8 Enlist bean. They look alright. Yield monitor showing them at 95, 92, 91, and I'm just not really believing that. No offense, Pioneer, but it seems high for this field. Not very good farm. One aspect of our management that was different on this farm versus some of our other lighter soils, by the time we got into this, the ground was pretty moist. It wasn't drying out very well in the spring, so we started field cultivating ahead of the planter. Normally we plan on doing a spring no-till. In the fall we hit the corn stalks with the vertical till. Come planting time, the 15-inch row soybean planter comes in here, puts the seed in without tilling the ground. We worked this field and then planted it, and I noticed, visually and anecdotally speaking, that the emergence in this field and the overall speed of growth was higher than the fields of similar composition that we did not work. Whether or not there's a yield difference, that's very hard to quantify. Visually though, these beans had a much better start. I almost wonder if this combine monitor is doing the opposite of what it was doing in the previous fields. These beans are lighter, but it's adjusted for very heavy beans versus those Extend Flex ones we've been cutting the previous field and over at Tower Hill. They were a very big bean. So theoretically, if it was using those metrics, a higher quantity of smaller beans would show up as much higher yields. I mean, 90 to 100 right here on the instant all the way across the field. Not entirely sure that that's true. The beans look good. I don't know if they're that good. I don't know though, for only doing one round that wasn't even that long of a distance, I've got a lot of beans in the grain tank. And they're looking relatively sizable. Who knows? Maybe Pioneer's got a home run hitter on their enlist lineup. Boss is back in the 780, and I'm running the mud shuttle to the trucks. That's one of the usually unnoted benefits of a grain cart. It allows you to load trucks places you normally couldn't. Another truck loaded. Dad's going to get the third truck because these beans do appear to be doing very well. And I get to run the 780 some more. No complaints here other than the fact that Dad keeps this combine in a literal oven on the inside. He must be getting old. Dad called me while the air was building up in that third truck and said, make sure there's a chain in the back of your truck, so we're going to do something. Yep, we got a chain. Mudfest 2021 continues. What does your yield monitor show these beans making? Ask Katie the 670 because her yield monitor is usually more modest.
They're like 69 to 70.
Dad's combine's showing them really heavy, like really high, but I just don't know that they're that good. So she's seeing 70. I'm seeing mid-80s at least. I'm getting 90s on the instant right now. But they're cutting like they're not that good at beans. Now, beans do cut differently depending on the variety. Some beans are just easy going through the machine. They're very pliable, so to speak. Other beans are just real bears for the combine, and it's got to work pretty hard to get them out, and they may not even yield that much. Hoping that these are going to be good. We're making a lot of trips back and forth and getting a lot of grain out of them, so that's a good sign. How in the world did you manage that? A little bit of mud on the draper. Oh, I'm glad I got that. Not glad that I got it with the draper, but I'm glad I stopped and got it off. If I ran that to the feeder house. This morning while we were getting the grain cart and bringing it back home, Dad and Jeff tore apart the feeder house and realigned that gathering chain in there. Got it right. Just hopped the sprocket, tightened it back down to where it needed to be, and it's golden. I don't think it should be christened with any more mud because the mud may have actually been the problem. Hey, your job is to cut soybeans, not level the land. No more of that. Playing around with some of the tech on this combine. This right here is the PowerCast tailboard settings. I have it adjusted somewhat to the right or offset against the wind. I also have it turned on automatic, so when I switch and head back the other direction, it knows to shift the pattern to the opposite side. So instead of being on the right side because the wind is coming right to left, it'll go to the left side. It'll throw farther on the left side as opposed. I think that's a pretty cool feature. Soybean residue isn't that big of a deal, but it's one of those things where the more you can spread it out, you'll probably see it in the spring. The ultimate gamble. Grain tank's 4 out of 4, beeping at me that it's full, and I've got 100 foot left to go. And the boss is standing over there watching me, which would make this even worse if I spilled something. Although he has no room to talk based on what I've seen him do this season. I shut the darn separator off on that combine 20 seconds before I got out. It still honked at me. Come on, give us a break. These soybeans have a distinct pasty look to them. Almost like a lima bean color. All right, everyone's reversing. Should I reverse? Is that just what we're doing? I'm gonna feel left out. Yeah, I'm reversing too. There's no reason for me to be, but it's just what we're doing. No, we're still going. Isn't it fun being part of the team? I love being included. Oh, we're stopped? Okay, we're going forward now. Just farming some lima beans today. Let's just hope that my truck can get out of here, because we got more beans to cut elsewhere. Oh boy, we're stuck. These heavy duty pickups are so bad in the mud. was an experience. But on the muddy side. If we got a draper on, we better go. If we stop, we're gonna be in trouble. Into the corn stalks we go. We're pulling up in another field that's already been cut to hook up to move across the road to another soybean field that hasn't been cut. My only goal here is to get this thing far enough in the field that the combine can get into and hook up, but getting out is not our concern right now. It appears that we're on relatively firm ground. I unhooked that draper. Katie's right there. She's about to pull and hook up. I'm gonna go get the other head cart. Oh, what a mess we've created out here. It's one of the perils of light ground. Never dries out. Dad's gonna take that head cart to his combine. He moved it down so we didn't have to travel down the lane with it. He's gonna unload there to the south. I'm gonna take the grain cart out of this field and move to the south as well. Of course, it doesn't give him any problems. I have a foot deep rut where I turned and he just zips right out of there. Plans change quickly. I'm taking the grain cart, Dad took the head cart, Jeff's taking that semi to the elevator. Needless to say, I'm wearing a lot of different hats today. We're back up north at Coal Station, Tate and Lyle, dropping off some beans. Oh, and no wait. A dream come true. I can't speak for certain, but I'm willing to bet that these beans are going to get tough and wet very quickly tonight given the weather. Overcast and chilly. Not good for running late into the night. The sound of that combine squeezing every single ounce of power out of that engine and the chopper sounding like it's sending rocks out the back is probably a good sign this is going to be our last field, if we even finish it. We've only got a couple small acres here, short rows, not a big deal. Katie's on the top side, cutting a little bit as well, but should be able to finish it, I hope. Tonight's episode of Will It Fit on the Last Truck? I hope so for the sake of convenience. I don't hope so for the sake of yield. We did in fact finish this field up. We're gonna try and cut one small portion of the field that we left a couple weeks ago, knock that off the docket, and then call it a night. So Katie and I are gonna move the 35-foot draper and the 780 to that field. Dad is somewhere. I guess he'll meet us there or something. Do we need to put an epilepsy warning on this one? Taking one of the loaded semis in. Elevator's closed. Get away from my tractor. I stopped by the field to see how they were progressing with that small bit of soybeans left, and wouldn't you know it, they're not going to fit on the semi, and they're not going to fit on anything else we have because all of our trucks are full. So I'm going to get the grain cart and I'm taking it to the field. Not really a bad problem to have by any means. It is convenient though for almost 9 o'clock at night. Gotta do what we gotta do. Did you think you were done for the night?
See.
Because I did. And I drove 5 miles for 7,500 pounds, which is 125-ish bushels of soybeans. It's doing my job. Back home I go. Back home again. For real this time though, I think. Oh look, the 780's at the fuel barrel. Typical. Alrighty everyone. I think that's gonna be it for the video. That's more than enough farming for one episode. If not for you, definitely for me. As of late, I seem to be burning the wick at both ends with the farming and the YouTube and the editing and the lack of sleep, but a little caffeine usually cures that. Hopefully we can push through the rest of harvest with no problems. There's spotty rain chances in the forecast. If those hold off, we should have a pretty good window to finish up this tiny bit of beans and this little chunk of corn. Everyone, I appreciate you tuning in. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love talking about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!